Imagine this, a girl so desperate to win the prince's heart that she cuts off her own toes just to fit his shoe. But what happens next? It's a dark, wild story about beauty, pain, and secrets that'll blow your mind. Just when you think you know how it ends, bam, you won't believe what comes next. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Dropping a like and a comment is the least you can do to show some love. And like we always say, even if some stories seem the same, they ain't never the same when I'm the one telling them. The movie starts with Elvira, her sister Alma, and their mom, Rebecca, driving to a new home in a quiet French town. They hope this fresh start will fix their broken lives. When they arrive, a strange man named Otto and his pretty daughter Agnes greet them warmly. But things don't stay simple for long. The two adults get married in just a few minutes. Agnes takes Elvira on a tour, showing her the big house. She introduces Elvira to Isaac, the stable boy who cares for the horses. Then, Agnes leads Elvira to her fancy room filled with sparkly jewelry and nice clothes. Agnes beams with happiness because her mom finally married a rich man. She dreams of a life of comfort and royal fancy. Looking out the window, Agnes sees a huge, dark castle. She holds a book of princes' poems close to her heart and wishes she could be the princess of the Swindleland kingdom, her secret dream waiting to come true. That evening, the family is all smiles, celebrating the new marriage. But then, Otto suddenly grabs a piece of cake and smashes it right into Elvira's face. Everyone laughs like it's a funny joke, but the mood snaps when Otto starts choking. He can't breathe, spits up blood, and drops dead right there. The next morning, Elvira brings coffee to Agnes's room, hoping to ease the sadness. She tells Agnes a story about how her own family had to be strong after their dad died, but Agnes doesn't want comfort. She snaps back, saying Elvira has no heart and that her dad only married her mom for the money. After hearing Agnes's harsh words, Elvira runs to tell her mom the truth, that Otto's family has no money at all. She doesn't know the family split everything up, leaving them with just a few coins. Her mom breaks down crying, feeling lost and scared. She thinks no rich man will ever want her now because she's too old and has two daughters to care for. Elvira promises her mom she will marry a prince one day, but Rebecca just looks at her and says, "Look in the mirror, Elvira. You're not pretty enough to be a princess." The next morning, a loud messenger arrives with news from the castle. Elvira rushes outside, eager to hear what he has to say. The king and his son, Prince Julian, are inviting all the noble virgins to a big ball at the castle. Elvira's heart races as she dreams of meeting the prince. When her mom hears about the invitation, she wastes no time. She calls a doctor right away to get Elvira ready for the ball. First, the doctor will take off her braces. Then, he plans to fix her nose and remove the bump so Elvira will look prettier and more like a princess. Rebecca agrees to pay double, desperate to make Elvira beautiful for the ball. The doctor starts by asking Rebecca what shape she wants for Elvira's nose. Then, without giving Elvira any pain medicine, he begins to pull off her braces. Next, the doctor grabs a chisel and hammer and starts cutting into Elvira's nose. She screams and cries from the sharp pain, but her mom just watches with a smile. Elvira's sister looks on, frozen and scared by the awful sight. At the training center, many young maidens have gathered to learn how to act like real princesses and win the prince's heart. Elvira sits alone, her head wrapped in ropes to keep her nose straight and fixed. She feels like a broken doll in a world that only cares about looks. Soon, Madame Sophie walks in with another lady. She tells the girls they will watch them closely during the selection process. If they do really well, they will move on to the next class and maybe get to stand with the princesses at the big ballroom. Madame Sophie reminds them, the prince will be there, but so will all the rich men from across the land. She smiles and says, "So, if you don't win the prince's heart, maybe you'll catch a rich man instead." The class starts with the first lesson, how to dance like a real princess. But when the teacher turns and sees Elvira's face, she just shrugs and says, "Move to the back." Then she calls Agnes to take Elvira's place up front. At dinner, Elvira gets a tiny lemon slice while everyone else eats fancy, rich food. Agnes eats happily and tells Rebecca she picked a day for her dad's funeral, but Rebecca shakes her head. She says there's no money for that right now. "We have to wait until after the ball," she says, hoping Elvira will marry the prince and fix everything. Angry and bitter, Agnes snaps back at her mom. She says the medicine to make Elvira beautiful costs way more money, while their dad's body is just rotting in his room. Some things need money, Rebecca says coldly, but his funeral shouldn't cost a single dime. She tells Agnes that since her daughters are also his sisters, she'll share some of her clothes with them instead. Agnes gets furious and storms away from the table. She goes to pray for her dad, but when she reaches his room, she finds his body already starting to decay. The next few days are filled with tough training. The girls practice balancing books on their heads and learning how to greet the prince politely. When the list of those who passed is put up, the girls rush to see if their names are there. Some jump with joy, but others walk away with sad faces. Elvira looks closely and is shocked to see that someone's name was crossed out so hers could be written instead. She can't help but smile, dreaming more and more about meeting the prince. In the next class, the teacher shows the girls a special dance move and asks who can do it just like her. Everyone raises their hands, even Elvira, so the teacher picks Elvira to try it first. After a few steps, the teacher suddenly stops the music and yells at her. "You're a failure? I don't like you one bit. If your mom hadn't paid me, you wouldn't be here." Then she calls Agnes and two other girls to show the dance properly. Elvira sits in the corner, crying quietly. That evening, Elvira tries on some of Agnes' fancy clothes, but they're way too tight and don't fit her at all. The next morning, during a meeting with Madame Sophie, Elvira says she feels hopeless. She thinks she's too ugly and fat, and the prince won't even look at her. Sophie smiles and tells her, "That's not true. I see a lot of myself in you." Then Sophie offers her something strange to help. Elvira rides her horse with her sister to the dark woods. There, Sophie shows her a creepy gift, a tiny tapeworm. It will help Elvira get slim and beautiful, so the prince can't ignore her. Once she's thin, Sophie says Elvira can drink an antidote to get rid of the worm. She begs Elvira to keep it a secret. Alma thinks this is too scary and rides her horse back home, ignoring Elvira when she calls. Later, Elvira swallows the pill with the tapeworm inside. That evening, when Elvira gets home, she hears strange humping noises coming from the barn. Curious, she goes to check it out. To her shock, she sees the stable boy and Agnes making out like they're in some wild movie. The next morning, Elvira watches as Agnes is dragged out of her room by their mother, Rebecca, who found out about what happened last night. Rebecca yanks off Agnes's necklace and says, "You're lucky you're not kicked out of this house. From now on, you have no rights. You'll work like a slave." Agnes stands by the window, helpless, as she sees Isaac thrown out of the house, completely naked. 3 months later, Elvira finally takes off her mask. She shows a beautiful straight nose, just like her mom wanted. She's slim and fit now, all thanks to the tapeworm inside her. Looking out the window, she sees Agnes working like a slave, milking cows in the cold. Next, Elvira faces a horrible surgery. She has to keep her eyes wide open while the doctor sticks eyelash implants in. She screams loud, but the doctor just smiles and says, "This time, you'll be very beautiful." That night, Elvira can't sleep. Her eyes hurt, and she's blind with bandages on. The tapeworm inside her is hungry too, so Elvira sneaks to the barn looking for food. Suddenly, a noise scares her, and she hides. It's Agnes, who feels sorry for her and quietly offers her some food. The next day in class, the instructor finally thinks Elvira looks pretty enough to lead the dance. At home, Elvira can't stop eating. Agnes, now a maid, helps her with everything, even reading her favorite poems. But when Elvira brushes her hair, she screams because her hair is falling out in big clumps. Scared, she runs to hide in her room. At the same time, a visitor comes to their house with a special gown for Elvira to wear at the big ball. While looking at the dress, the man notices Elvira's scalp showing through her thinning hair. Her mom sees it too, but doesn't want to know why. Instead, she quickly grabs a wig and puts it on Elvira's head to hide the bald spots. That night, Elvira eats like a wild animal while Agnes quietly checks her gown, dreaming of sneaking off to the ball. Jealousy burns inside Elvira like fire, and she grabs Agnes' dress, ripping it into tiny pieces. Rebecca hears the fight and pulls the girls apart. Agnes storms out, and Rebecca whispers to Elvira that Agnes won't make it to the ball. She has nothing to wear. "Elvira, you'll be the most beautiful girl there," she promises, slipping her some strange potions. Then she tells Elvira to go back to sleep. In a dark room, Agnes cries by her father's dead body. Suddenly, a bright light fills the room, like the ghost of her dead mother. The spirit gives Agnes a shoe and a dress, whispering that she must wear them to the castle and meet the prince. At the castle, the maidens are introduced one by one to the prince. Each girl dances and shows off her beauty while their names and stories are read out loud, so the prince knows exactly who they are. When it's Elvira's turn, everyone stops and stares. Her beauty shines like a bright light. Every man wants to dance with her, even the prince's best friend. One by one, they all line up to ask for her hand. When the prince steps forward, he walks straight to Elvira and asks her to dance. As they move together, Elvira feels tears fill her eyes. Her dream is finally coming true. Suddenly, another maiden walks into the ballroom. Without a moment's pause, the prince leaves Elvira to dance with Agnes, right in front of her eyes. Elvira's heart breaks like glass, and her dream crumbles into dust. She rushes away, feeling sick, and throws up in the hallway. To her horror, it's the tapeworm's eggs making her so sick. Her mom rushes to her side, and Elvira cries out, "I'm dying." But Rebecca wipes her tears away and tries to comfort her, saying, "There are other good men waiting for you. Pull yourself together, Elvira." Agnes spent the whole night dancing with many different men, while Elvira watched with growing anger. She couldn't believe her eyes when she saw her mom, drunk and laughing with several men, and even worse, when she saw Agnes dancing with the prince. Agnes quickly slipped out of the ballroom, and the prince ran after her. A few minutes later, the prince came back and announced, "Any girl whose foot fits this shoe will become my bride." That night, Elvira came home full of hate for Agnes. She grabbed a knife and demanded the shoe from her sister. As Elvira tried to attack, Agnes moved fast and knocked the knife out of her hand. Agnes ran upstairs, but Elvira chased her, knife ready, wanting to end it all. Rebecca heard the noise and shouted for Elvira to go back to bed. "You had your chance with the prince," she said coldly. "It's over now." Rebecca then brought home a young man to spend the night with them, leaving Elvira alone with her anger. Elvira saw that the shoe the prince held belonged to Agnes, and she quickly tried to wear it, but it was too small. Filled with panic, Elvira grabbed a sharp knife, placed her toes on the table, and chopped off a few toes so the shoe would fit. She screamed with a pain so sharp it felt like her heart was breaking. The stable girl and Agnes ran into the room, but Elvira kept begging her mom to help her make the shoe fit no matter what. When Elvira fainted from the pain and shock, her mom took the knife and chopped off toes from her other foot too. While she was unconscious, Elvira dreamed about wearing the shoe perfectly. When she finally woke up, she was shocked to see that all 10 of her toes were gone. Outside, a loud messenger called out that the prince had arrived, and all the noble girls must come outside so he could see who the shoe fit. Because Elvira couldn't walk, she rolled slowly down the stairs and watched Agnes leave the house dressed in a fine gown. As Agnes took one last look back at Elvira before going to meet the prince, the messenger announced, "The shoe fits." Agnes was now the prince's bride. Elvira's tears fell quietly as she watched the prince walk away, leaving her behind. The stable girl found Elvira and asked for the tapeworm antidote. Elvira poured milk into a bowl and helped the stable girl drink it. Moments later, Elvira began to vomit blood as the worm started coming out of her mouth. The stable girl carefully pulled out more than 10 meters of the tapeworm and cut it into pieces. Later, the stable girl sneaked into Rebecca's room to steal some gold, but found her with a strange man. She ignored them and kept working. With care, the stable girl helped Elvira leave the house. She held Elvira's legs while Elvira moved with her hands, and together they got on a horse. They rode away, hoping to cross the border and start a new life in another town. What would you do if you gave everything to win love, only to lose yourself in the darkest way? Would you keep fighting or let go and walk away? Drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I want to hear how you'd handle this painful twist.